Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Brent Davis here from Flora Live, and we're with Campbell from Autodidactic as well. So, Campbell, you want to take us into this one with we're discussing something very interesting.
Yeah, we were just talking about shadow work, which has been a major topic that's sort of come up in the last 2, 3 years. And there's this big push to get people to basically go back and relive their trauma. This is what shadow work is. And through that, they're supposed to be able to clear it. And I've said it before, I don't agree. I don't agree with shadow work. I think focusing on anything is putting power into it. So that's what because when you do shadow work, ultimately you have to change your frequency, how you see things, how you react to certain things in your past. So it's a frequency thing. But these flowers, they work straight on the frequency. So they do the same, you get the same outcome, but you don't have to spend these months of going and reliving your trauma and all this stuff, do you?
Right. Right. I mean, yeah, you mentioned that, and I said make sure to talk about it because it is so important. So remember, I have a long background in energy psychology. I was there when it began in the 1980s. So there is a long story as to how we deal with transformation of consciousness and getting rid of these mind obstacles or spirit obstacles, karmic obstacles, depending on how far back you want to go. But shadow work, here's how that works. So let's say somebody has a pretty clear picture or memory of something terribly unsettling in the past. We can, if we're trained in applied kinesiology and other methods, we can have them visualize that and it will weaken them, and we can test that. And in other words, that is really affecting them negatively. Then you could set them on this course of going to seminars or tuning into stuff that'll help them deal with shadow work, and it could go on by the week or the month. And your point is that it could be counterproductive. Now, in some cases, clearly it does help people, but it's very cumbersome and it can be upsetting. And so what I would do, if I found that weakness, I would administer one of these dozens and dozens of amazing flower frequencies, which are code, and watch to see if that abolishes the memory. Okay, so you get, let's say they have it. I see that it weakens them. I administer this substance and tell them to come back in 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, we go back into that thought. We have them try to somatically and every experiential way try to come up with that same thought and see if it weakens them the same way. And what's rather astonishing is by putting little drops in water that have been coded from these divine beings that gave this wisdom, a lot of times that removes it. So my advice is take the easy route first. And then if it doesn't work, now I do know people, because I've come across a lot of remarkable people, and there are people that are so skilled in the true shamanic art that when you entrust yourself in that process and they know what they're doing, it is safe, they can produce tremendous transformation. Absolutely. I've seen it. I know some of these people, but I also know that they're few and far between. There aren't too many of them that do that really high quality skilled work. And there are hundreds to one or thousands to one of people who have taken a weekend seminar here or there, or feel they have this, this ability, and they may or may not. So these things are safe, and they're an enormous dispensation because they do huge amount of healing for a little amount of input. So that's what I call a dispensation.
And it's a cheaper option too, just by the way.
I spent my life, fortunately, I love this, and I love the trips that I took. And some of them were actually imperiling for my life. Some of them were very dangerous trips, very hard trips, but it was a mission. And I'll return to it, actually. I'm not done yet, but I spent 15 years of dedicated, absolutely full force on this around the world. And I did it because I realized exactly what you said. It is such a gift to people. And so these things, when people say, well, so you put the pure potentials, $49.95, by the way, into that Sacred Lake region, people travel there from as far away as Chile on foot, 3 months, over the mountains from Chile to get to Peru. And when they get there, there's like tent cities, and they're able to stay there. And they spend $60 US, and that was in 2004, $60 US for the opportunity to go for a shamanic practice at the edge of that lake, where the shamans come out and spray them in their mouth like they do in Tibet. They spray them with those flower frequencies for a miraculous thing, and people come there because enough people get miracles to warrant that trip. And it's $60. So we have a bottle of this stuff for $49.95. And it contains frequencies that are used in that region and others as well. So yeah, it's a no-brainer. Like, try it. It won't hurt anything. It can.
Yeah, no side effects either, as well. I was going to say, like, it's
No,
not.
but there is something at the bottom of the Flora Live website, very, very important. Go there. There are tools. On the left-hand bottom side, there are like 6 or 7 documents. And I really recommend everybody read that, because it gives you a little printout tool where you can take note of the changes that occur each week. And also, you should ask a trusted other person. Could be a family member, could be a dear friend, to have them keep an eye out on you. Because there's a significant percentage of people that, if I didn't know how to do muscle testing, I wouldn't be able to show them that there was a change, because they don't notice it. And believe me, there is a percentage of people. They are typically people who are tuned out of their body, who have not centered in their body, and they're often not grounded. And they can't read what's going on in their own body, and they don't know. You say, are you better? I don't know. There is a percentage. And then those are the people that you ask their wife or their husband or something else, well, of course they're better. It's like day and night. It's huge. And they don't even see the difference. So that does occur. And of course, there are other people that doesn't do anything. Naturally, it can't work for everyone. But kind of playing off of what Eckhart Tolle said, I studied all of his work when he first went around the world and gave this great message. He would point out, he said, if you're here, it means you were attracted to the frequency, and it has a good chance of helping you. I mean, he recognized this doesn't help everyone. His work does not, and as great as it was, it does not help everyone. Because if you're not aligned with it, it won't help. And it's the same thing with this. If people say, I don't know how, but somebody told me about this, and I found this site, and that's great, because normally they're aligned with it. Okay, so let's go to Freedom Flowers and Dancing Goddess. Now that was our second thing we were going to talk about.
Yeah,
right?
for love and Freedom Flowers, yes.
Yeah. So Freedom Flowers is another one that has got several flowers in it. The test phrases are quite remarkable. I am confronted with insurmountable obstacles. Well, you're done. Pack it up. If you believe that, you better get rid of that belief. And I actually, oddly enough, I've really studied a lot of the work of Tony Robbins, who is a whole separate scenario. You can go through one of his weekend seminars and get excited and do a walk on coals, which I did. That was kind of cool. And you can come out, and I've done this with dozens and dozens of people, and you can test people later. Did it permanently change some of these beliefs? He's the best known because he does such enormous seminars. But there are many others. And if the belief is gone, it's gone. And if it's not, it's not. And so what I did for many years is what I would test people after they'd had these experiences, and sometimes spent thousands and thousands of dollars trying to clear things. And we can find out pretty quickly if they're gone. And if they are, great. And sometimes I would find people and I test them, I'd say, you only need 1 flower out of 51. What did you do? And then sometimes they would recount all the stuff they did. And then I'd say, well, that's been a long road, but good, because it cleared stuff. Because it works in many, many ways. People get clearing sometimes quickly, sometimes they don't. But if you look at these are chilling. I'm getting chills. Look at them. Look at the ones that are starred. And in energy psychology, the language is very important. Irreversible language is very important. Finality is important. So when you look at the words in number 4, I am powerless to reclaim my kidnapped soul identity. Now, believe me, if you know about energy work, you know how big that is and how complex, what a deep rabbit hole that is. How could your soul energy be kidnapped? It can. It's called black magic. And this stays with people for lifetimes if you believe in lifetimes. Or it stays with genetic lineages over transgenerational if you're Judeo-Christian. It doesn't matter which direction you look at it from, this stuff is out there. And these are massive obstacles if you believe these things. When Han Solo in Star Wars was encased in that wall, do you remember that? That was the most powerful. It just gave me chills when I watched the technology that encased him permanently and cast him into space, forever trapped. Because what that image calls to mind is this kind of stuff. And it may not have been a casing thrown over you, but it was a casing, and it would entrap people and they couldn't get out of it. So my soul, held in the captivity of a stasis state. Old Han Solo was in a stasis state, is not accessible to me. So this is the whole process of soul retrieval. And there's one shamanic tradition, and I can't remember the guy, he's a Peruvian PhD. He just teaches a 4-year course in soul retrieval, and people have to spend hundreds of hours studying that to become a true shamanic person, to try to initiate or act to get soul retrieval for the people that need it. So Freedom Flowers has a lot to do with soul retrieval. How about this one? Remember, finality of language. I am convicted throughout eternity. For how long? Oh, forever, for my crimes. Did I come up with these things? No, I didn't create these things. What happened was I would be with patients that had these problems, and it would emerge that this was what was going on in their unconscious mind. Like how this worked was, I'd go out, I'd have these expeditions, I would collect the flowers, I'd finally put them into a blend. And then like the next week or two, God would start sending in all these people that needed it. Now, I can't say anything else because they came in as new patients. I didn't find them, they found me. And they come in exactly when I needed them to find out if the stuff that I got actually worked for what I thought it worked for. And the people would come into my office and I'd say, this is absolutely unbelievable. And that went on for years until finally I adopted the belief and the certainty that when I develop a new flower, I'll find the people that need it right away. They'll come to me, they'll find me. How does that work? That's a pretty handy magic trick in itself. But it's happened for years. So I'm free from ancestral curses. I'm free from all unhealthy attachments. I do not have the light resources to overcome the challenges I face. I mean, just one after the other. It's all the things that the person believes they are trapped with. That's why it's called Freedom Flowers. And that's where our whole group of people that want to go onto homesteads and get their freedom and reclaim their God-given right of sovereignty. The Freedom Flowers should be on every website that believes in sovereignty.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point, isn't it? Like everyone wants sovereignty. We have all these movements in law and stuff, but it's a very different thing to have the knowledge than to stand up in court or in front of police and actually be there and state that you are in charge of your life. It's a big thing I think a lot of people struggle with. So that's a perfect mix really for anyone, like you said, who is, you know, of this mind trying to build, you know, the new world, get away from the system, you know, because another thing is, you know, we create, right, the placebo and nocebo. Because there's all these negative thoughts and energies that we keep ourselves in that ultimately express themselves physically as a disease. So this is almost could be looked at as a preventative as well.
It's enormous prevention, and many of these things are produced with that in mind. These blessed beings that came up with this whole concept wasn't me. Again, I received it after it had been formulated. But the reason I received it is because my life dealing with alternative consciousness began when I was 14 years old, sitting at the feet of a Brahmin priest who was a double PhD in international law that taught at Columbia University. What an amazing man. And I had the ability to be around this guy. He'd sit there with his satin robe and saffron scarf, but he was also a double PhD. He was a brilliant man, but he was a Brahmin priest. And that's how I started out at age 14. And it just, you know, and I looked at, I was born and raised as an Episcopalian and whatever. My background is very diverse. I'm not a member of anything, but I just appreciated these traditions and the deep insights on the esoteric level of those traditions. So I had that as a background, and I guess that's what enabled me to receive that guidance in 2000 to be able to go ahead and then do this work. So that's Freedom Flowers. The second thing we were going to talk about is For Love. And, you know, when I look at people as patients, a great deal of problems in their life come from money or love. The failure of having money or pressures from finances or inability to have satisfying relationships. That comprises a great deal of what's going on in people that causes them trouble. In my own life, because of the intensity of the commitment toward these years of going on these missions, which I had a practice, and then I had to leave the practice because I didn't have associates. My life was too unusual to try to bring in associates. So I never did have associates, which would have been wonderful, but I had a solo practice. And then I would close it and go off on these expeditions. My wonderful patients would wait, until I came back. But I couldn't have the family that I chose because it was just not possible with my schedule and the traveling and the commitment. So I would have had to either choose family or abandon this program, and I couldn't do the abandoning it. So I had to wait. So by the time I got into my 60s, this was well underway. I had already I'd seen by the year 2012, that was really clear how much of this work had been done. A great deal of the work was done in Peru with many trips. I spent long periods of time in all the way from the lowland jungles up to the highest parts of about 15,500 is the highest level that I worked at in the Andes, the foothill of some of the large mountains.
Is that where you collected some of these for love combinations?
Yes, Flor de la Luna and Flor del Oso came from that sacred lake region that I showed you. So then I realized, maybe it's time for me to create what I call an attractor field. I thought, well, I have to create the attractor field that will enable me to embark on a process where I can end up having a family. So I had already been using HeartMend, changed my life completely, Flor de la Luna and Flor del Oso, but I did not have this flower, snowball flower. Didn't have that. Didn't get that until 2015. And that was the last one. It's absolutely massively powerful. So if you can look at this, the reason we don't have love is we have what are called love blocks. Deep grief shuts us down, and it makes it very hard for anyone else to come into that space. So HeartMend, almost infallible at getting rid of deep grief. Just to give ideas to anyone, I wish that were available for all people that had pets that had lost their pets, because they have grief that often follows them the rest of their life. I wish it were in the hands of all holistic vets that put down animals, and every time they did that, they should be giving HeartMend to the client, the person that had their animal put down. This is HeartMend itself could be an entire company. It's a remarkable product. Flor de la Luna, again, right beside it with fundamental importance. If we cannot receive love, we cannot receive money. They're very much linked. Now, you can have horrible, evil people that still make a lot of money. So there's obviously a different process at work. And that's because a lot of time they've abdicated the divinity in their soul and they've exchanged it for satanic power that gives them the ability to make money. So there are really very ugly rich people. But if you want to be wealthy, and I love that idea of wealth, and be highly conscious, that's a whole different process. It takes a lot more work to attract the ability to accumulate abundance, affluence, or true wealth, and still be a blessing to everyone. Whether we ever get to be wealthy, I hope all of us that are working with Flora Life do someday, but we can do it clearly because it's so clean. So that's a wonderful thing. Flor del Oso, I don't know. I think I'm going to try and show it because there are people that watch these videos. I think this happened with Lorenzo. I think you just saw some of these things and you could feel it, right?
You could smell them from a distance, feel them.
Yeah. And so you're tuned, and Chia, your wife, also was able to capture that. People can be confident of something, but not certain. So we actually have a way of testing them. We can have something that they are working with that they wish to achieve. We can have them make the statement, I am confident, I will blank, fill in the space. I'm confident, I will, whatever. And it tests as true. And then we make the one change. We say, I am certain that I will. And they do not pass that. So there's a difference between confidence and certainty. If you can establish certainty, it's pretty likely to happen, as long as it's not unrealistic. You're a high-level athlete and you're competing in a heat, and you could win. It's within reason. then you want to be certain you're going to win. And the high level coaches that are with these guys, and all of them retain these high level, they're teaching them how to visualize the certainty of winning that meet. Well, here's a set of little drops. Yeah, these should be used for competitive athletes.
Or if you're just having problems manifesting, right?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like it's taking it like confidence is it's possible, but certainty is it's already happened, so it has to.
Right.
It's a completely different thing.
Yeah. This is one of the most special flowers. I can't imagine how to say it other than.
Oh, wow.
It is turquoise and gold, and it's the size of your fist. It's a large thing, and it's an inflorescence, and there are no words. It's just, it connects us directly to the mind of God. It's a conduit, directly clean, clear energy. And it's so sacred that when it blooms, almost always the indigenous people cut it and they put it in their house for as long as it'll last. You can never find this in bloom. And if it's not cut that way, it's eaten by bear. That's why they call it flower of the bear. Bear eat that flower bud. There aren't that many bears left, unfortunately, where this grows. Anyway, it took massive effort, 2 expeditions of 10 days. In order to find that where I could extract it. But it is so special.
Super beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this one, Dr. Davis. This is amazing. So we just worked at, for love to move ourselves towards freedom flowers. So you put those together and, you block all potential beliefs that are hampering. I like very much from getting from confidence to certainty. It's a huge jump in manifesting the dreams that maybe you know that you can, but haven't yet.